If there is any trans joy, it happens very briefly, sometime between the 25th story and the ground.
Tolerance is my #1 virtue signal.
I don't know if you guys know this, but there is actually 72 genders now.
Decentering your whiteness. You're stretching out of your whiteness.
If nothing's funny, you can't make fun of anything. It's like, legalize comedy. Legalize comedy. Legalize comedy. Legalize comedy. Legalize comedy. Legalize.
Conservatives have a really hard time understanding the concept of comedy. Elon Musk paid so many people to laugh at his jokes that he tricked himself into thinking wearing more than one hat was hilarious.
They say I wear a lot of hats. Even my hat has a hat.
But no matter how much you scream, legalize comedy, you can't make yourself funny. Some of us are just not born with the gift. And many of those people not born with that gift seem to think the funniest possible jokes they can make are just pointing at people they don't like, dying under tragic circumstances and laughing. I wish I was joking. Take for instance human herpes sore Matt Walsh, a crusty fascist bore with all of the mainstream appeal of a cockroach with dementia, who has spent the last several years trying to turn himself into the Borat of the American far right. Of course, we all know that the Borat of the British far right is, of course, Borat himself. Don't look up Sacha Baron Cohen's opinions on Israel.
We spoke to some of his handlers at the Mossad.
Matt Walsh's abominations masquerading as mockumentaries, What is a Woman and Am I Racist, are feature-length lessons in deceptive framing and editing. Not helped by the fact that their leading man in a supposed comedy film series is the only person on Earth less funny than Elon Musk.
So what I'm saying is that the problem is not per se teenage pregnancy, it's unwed pregnancy. That's the problem in society. It's only problematic when you are not married and you don't have the man there to help you take care of the kids because he's a coward.
At least Elon Musk is funny to laugh at. Alright, maybe that's not entirely fair. Matt Walsh, after all, did write a book in which he commissioned himself to be drawn as a sexy, muscular zookeeper who mansplains a mother's own child to her, after all. But he's been drawn with weirdly buff forearms and an outline of a six-pack? At this point, I'm pretty convinced that Matt Walsh just drew this himself. Like, he drew himself all muscular and sexy. But also looking like a pedophile. Like, look at the muscle outlines. Jesus Christ, this is pathetic. Most right-wing comedy, however, is even less complicated than a guy trying to do his best impression of Sacha Baron Cohen in the 2000s. Because much of the genre we're talking about don't actually have any jokes. They have targets that they want bad things to happen to, and that's it. The humour, if you can call it that, comes from the idea that bad things will happen to the people that they don't like. Or that bad things have happened to them. Own the libs, but with a laugh track. Now, I don't understand why this is funny. There's no subversion of expectations, no punching up, no absurdism, no wordplay, no slapstick, just cruelty. But for some reason, showing bad things happen to minorities, or showing people upset at bad things happening to minorities, gets a whole bunch of anonymous conservative Twitter accounts posting the classic right-wing reply of 3 cry-laughing emojis, which means they agree with you, or they're the maddest they've ever been.
You are upsetting me because the way you're phrasing questions, I think, is not cogent.
Sometimes, if the joke hits really hard, they'll also, in addition to the 3 cry-laughing emojis, add a 100% emoji, or a target. Oh, someone died? So funny, epic, and based! I love the taste of boots. Please, Donald Trump, take away my healthcare and chances of retirement. Send my neighbours to camps. I am the comedy understander.
If nothing's funny, you can't make fun of anything. It's like, legalize comedy.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
If you want to understand what I'm talking about in one simple case study, look at the, R-word finder account on the rotting pile of shit once known as Twitter. This is, well, this is the end result of this style of And I say this with the largest scare quotes possible, humour. As Twitter user Mason McCann put it, this account is the event horizon of the last 12 years of internet conservatism. It's all just devolved into pointing at a thing they don't understand and screaming slurs at it. Plus it might be Elon's alt account, which just makes this whole thing even worse.
Yeah, just like cum rockets all over the place.
Yeah. Nobody wants that, right?
Yeah,
Who's that helping?
Clean up on aisle 9 or whatever.
I don't want to live on this planet anymore.
And as well as eloquently describing the phenomenon I've been getting at here, that line, that description of internet conservatism, very succinctly describes the output of the actual subject of this video. A certain white Puerto Rican fascist artist and supposed funny man for people who think Hitler was good, actually. Hans Christian Grabner, known formerly as Red Panels, or more recently, under the pen name Stonetoss. But we'll get to him. Now, there are worse people than Matt Walsh who do this style of comedy, but not many. Matt Walsh is much more openly far-right than other far-right comedians who masquerade as centrists, thanks to being more appealing to the mainstream and having both the wild variety of takes and the intellectual capacity as, and being as consistent in their political positions as, your average coworker. Think Joe Rogan, or his friend and man now more famous for speaking at a Trump rally and calling Puerto Rico an island of garbage, Tony of Kill Tony, who despite having made a show called Kill Tony many years ago, still has yet to face the firing squad. What's up with that? I have to assume that this is foreshadowing, and that this will happen in the final episode of the show. Either that or this whole thing is just false advertising.
There's literally a floating island of garbage in the middle of the ocean right now. Yeah, I think it's called Puerto Rico.
Despite having oodles of far-right takes, and in Rogan's case, even having Trump on his show and endorsing him for president, they get the pass from a lot of people because they come across much less like someone with a take that they want to get across, and seem to most people much more like that copy-paster about the two dumb bitches telling each other, exactly. One person who is, somehow, worse than Matt Walsh is, surprise surprise, the cartoonist known as Stonetoss. Almost all of his jokes are pointedly cruel jabs at minorities suffering or dying, or allusions to the fact that the cartoonist himself is an outright neo-Nazi, whose only defense that he isn't is that he wasn't alive in the 1930s and he's not German. I think if that is your defense against accusations of being a Nazi, it's probably safe to assume that you're one of the niche cadre of freaks who take no issue with their policy platform, which makes sense if all of your comics are about how minorities should all, dangle from the end of a rope. And that's not a euphemism in this case, as much as I wish it were. If I was Stonetoss, I'd be much more inclined to make jokes about, for example, how I had a botched circumcision that left my penis borderline non-functional. Because that's funny as fuck. In the man's own words.
The resulting dryness of my glans penis, the limited range of my penile skin to glide, and the psychosexual body image dysmorphia makes it difficult to achieve orgasm during coitus and encompass masturbation.
That is, objectively, the funniest thing Stonetoss has ever written. And apparently it wasn't a joke. The attempts at jokes he actually makes are beyond cruel. They're fucking terrifying. But before we get to those, we need to close the case of Matt Walsh.
The word consent has become is increasingly means nothing because we've expanded it so much.
At the time of writing this, Matt Walsh's most recent attempt at humour was an absolute stinker. And in the way that it was evil and also not funny. Following prominent social media posts about a trans child's... Well, how do I say this without getting demonetized? A trans child's tragic end by her own hand, her final social media posts leading up to this tragedy have become a magnet for some of the most disgusting things I've ever seen in my life. Endless comments, seeds of the stuff, laughing at, parodying, photoshopping, making monstrous gifs, and taunting a dead fucking child, including at the place where she did it. So, of course, Matt Walsh, the far-right's most accomplished comedian, said, extremely tastefully, on his show,
if there is any trans joy, if it happens at all, it happens very briefly, sometime between the 25th story and the ground.
Now, I'm sure Matt Walsh knows, and chooses to ignore, the studies that he consistently insists don't exist, that show vastly improved mental health outcomes for trans people who have received gender-affirming care. Trans joy does exist. Like, scientifically we know it, we've seen it, we've studied it. It's just made a lot harder when people like Matt go around doing shit like this, and trying to convince everyone that we're all monsters with some sinister agenda, and at the same time, miserable wretches that are on the edge of keeling over at any second. To Matt Walsh, as with any fascist, his enemy is simultaneously both weak and strong.
I'm confused by race or culture. Like, what are you promoting?
Both. You can't separate them. They're the same. What I'm saying is not like I'm making this up. This has just been the case. Go back through history. This is just the way it works. Because it's also identified with a way of thinking, a way of life, a culture, a philosophy. Because that was all there. It was an Anglo-Saxon thing. Then you that's what I identify with. It's not.
I have 5 kids. Like, now I'm confused. Am I perpetuating the problem, or
see, you keep bringing this up, and it makes to me look like I'm making some racist point. I know you're saying that's what you're trying to do, but that's obviously not what I'm saying. Have relations and kids with whoever you fall in love with. That's great, as long as they're the same gender. I'm fine with that. All I'm saying is that as a general rule, for our culture and our identity to continue, we need to just procreate and keep that culture going.
I might suggest that if this is what people mean by legalized comedy, then I think they might need to rethink if they can understand what words mean. A child. A tragedy. One of the worst things that can happen to anyone. And pointing at it and laughing is their version of comedy? Is comedy just when cruel things are said about people you hate? If that's the case, I have a long list of incredibly incendiary things I'd like to say about Matt Walsh following this statement. I'm assuming, since comedy is legal now, thank you Elon Musk, that this will make me one of the most beloved comedians on the far right. Okay? Well then, here we go. Matt Walsh should be loaded into a until his put on display. How horrible they taste. Until the entire continent of North America his tiny shriveled cock. I look forward to being invited on to Kill Tony and Joe Rogan within the next 2 weeks. Thank you very much. Let's, for just a moment, get back to the story of the child whose awful fate Matt Walsh is using as an attempt to get a cheap gag here. It is the 2nd of May, 2025, and a photograph from a Portland bridge at night emerges that will haunt all those with empathy who saw it, and, for reasons I cannot at all fathom, encourage anonymous and public far-right accounts both to post text replies, photos, and videos mocking it for weeks to come. The photograph, posted by Burnt Fishy on Twitter, is accompanied by the caption, "It's a pretty view." The comment that followed this photo read simply, "Long way down." Charlotte Foskate was 17 years old, and had been missing for nearly 24 hours prior to this final haunting image hitting the internet. Even writing this, I could barely maintain my emotion. This horror, this tragedy should never have happened. The world, her country, her society failed her. This twisted world that bans healthcare, that lets people like her live authentic and happy lives, that accuses people like her of being predators and mutilators, and hunting down children, and, for shame, responds to the passing of children like her, due, I imagine, in no small part, to the cruelty of the culture at large, with scorn, derision, and hysterical laughter. Or as Transvite put it, instead of compassion or grief, much of the internet responded with mockery, memes, and transphobic glee. I could read out these comments, as I often do in other circumstances, but I only read comments from Twitter anons when I think they're funny examples of people being wrong on the internet. This is not funny. This is horrifying. I will only read 2 of these comments to give you a taste of what these replies were like, and I'll spare you the many photoshops, horrible drawings, videos and GIFs, dark fantasies and celebrations, TikToks, audio mashups, and general attempts to turn a girl's tragic death into a viral meme. To sum up these disgusting outbursts, gravity did what hormones couldn't. One less freak. Just in case you're of any doubt as to whether conservatives actually care about children as they claim, if they actually have the best interests of trans kids at heart, well, there it is. So, given all this, you might be wondering, what did Stonetoss do? Well, Stonetoss is very likely to have the worst possible take at any given time. He's posted multiple comics explicitly saying he believes black people are less intelligent than white people, and hiring black people causes places to lose money because they're just so bad at working. He has tons of anti-trans comments, including making 41% jokes, a reference to, well, what happened in this story. He is taunting people unaliving themselves, because he thinks that it is funny and not a tragedy. But that shouldn't be surprising. His first comic series, Red Panels, was a crypto-fascist wet dream, and ended with him signing out doing the Sieg Heil, something he's brought back with full force on his main comic since Elon Musk brought that abomination back into the mainstream. He consistently shows fascists and people taking pride in whiteness as something to be proud of and defended, all while implying queer people are predators coming after your kids. And I think we can all guess what he thinks about black people given what I've already said, and that he's a fascist return guy in a country that has still yet to completely abolish slavery per the 14th Amendment. He uses fascist slogans glorifying, for example, the Crusades, thinks white people are a superior race, peddles the Great Replacement conspiracy theory, and panics about Muslims taking over Europe like he's an Iberian man during the fall of Rome. He's made comics with anti-Semitic caricatures directly reminiscent of Nazi propaganda, mocked the murder of George Floyd, equates diversity initiatives and not being racist to being pro-literal military invasions, is obsessed with black crime statistics, pines for a white ethno-state, defends open Nazi Richard Spencer, praises Hitler, promotes the idea of a master race, denies the and is such a vile and radicalizing force for the far right that he has inspired multiple mass shooters, appearing in the manifesto for the Buffalo shooter in 2022, who explicitly targeted black people, and being frequently retweeted by a Texas shooter in 2023. So you might imagine that he will be posting similar stuff now, right? Well, yes. It's not enough to be vile enough to make constant jokes about trans people shuffling off this mortal coil in the abstract. Now he has a case he can directly laugh at. And he did. Posting this horrendous comic, showing a figure with a dress, pink hair, lots of stubble, and a giant penis bulge, about to unalive herself, before the police officer below tells her, men are statistically more likely to follow through with it. This being your response to a child's tragic death is fundamentally baffling to me as, a person with empathy and a sense of compassion. How do you live your life feeling this wrathful towards people, children, who have done absolutely nothing to you, and are just trying to live their lives without pain and suffering? You are the kind of person that led to this. And well, it gets worse. Because in the following days, Stonetoss made his banner picture that final haunting image, from the bridge, the long way down, photoshopped, of course, to make light of the fact that he's literally mocking the... well, I'm going to run out of ways to say it, so I'll just say, this is actually genuinely evil. And you might be asking, if you've never heard of Elon Musk outside of the Tesla promo, how someone like this is even allowed to be on Twitter to be making a child's final moments his banner and posting comics laughing at what happened to her. Well, Stonetoss is exactly the comedy that Elon wanted to legalize. And as someone with a trans child, that should be a clue, if you still need it at this point, that Elon Musk is just as evil as the guys whose salute he was emulating a few short months ago. In fact, Stonetoss is explicitly protected by Elon Musk himself. This position of prominence he has on the platform, including, thanks to a nifty blue checkmark, getting his posts and replies promoted all over the site, can be laid directly at the hands of Elon Musk, who even banned people from revealing Stonetoss's real name and deleted all evidence, despite revealing someone's name not being doxing, and despite him being a Nazi, so who cares? Speaking of things we should be legalizing, I think it's only fair that if you want to do Third Reich shit, You should have to be open about who you are and where you can be found at all times. You're so proud of it? Go battle it out in the marketplace of ideas. See how much white pride you have when you have to argue with one of those inferior races you hate so much, face to fucking face.
Legalize comedy.
And in case you thought this guy was done, he's back to posting jokes about transgender unaliving rates, equating the pushback he gets for posting comics, literally making fun of a transgender child jumping off a bridge, to him mocking people dying. One of these things is not like the other. Followed by, and this might be the worst thing yet, an absolutely vile video of a doll modelled off one of his characters at the bottom of the ocean as sad music plays with 41% off, just use code 41, see bio. And though I was shell-shocked at the level of depravity I was dealing with here, I absolutely did see bio. And wouldn't you believe it, he's now selling merchandise using this promo code that celebrates the death of trans people.
It's like nothing's funny, you can't make fun of anything. It's like legalize comedy. Yeah.
The thing is, Stonetoss has always been like this. People have been making videos raising the alarm about the fact that there is a very popular webcomic bio-neo-Nazi for neo-Nazis for years. But he's still going. And his popularity has only been bolstered by Twitter.com being twisted into a website for and by fascists that promotes and boosts fascist content explicitly. So let's talk about what Elon did for this guy, and guys like him, who, despite Matt Walsh having vowed to erase trans ideology from this earth, is somehow more vile, and most importantly for Elon Musk apparently, less funny when he's being a shriveled husk of a human being. Because the fact that so many of us have to see this shit at all is entirely Elon Musk's fault.
The art of saying it.
It's like nothing's funny, you can't make fun of anything.
The art of saying it.
It's like legalize comedy.
The art of saying it.
Yeah, legalize comedy.
And we've shifted the entire...
These days, it's not really a secret that Elon Musk is extremely far right. But despite all evidence to the contrary, there were many people online who were either mostly offline or in completely isolated social circles online that didn't realize the kind of person that would be running a social media site they had to exist on, and for a lot of us, relied on for networking and information. Elon Musk is a fan of Stonetoss. In fact, he has previously shared Stonetoss cartoons himself on his Twitter profile. And many of you will remember that when Elon took over Twitter, one of the first things he did was reverse a bunch of the bans of far-right accounts, even those accused of awful things, up to and including possession of CSAM. Musk's preference then for far-right voices on the platform became pretty clear pretty quickly, even to those who desperately tried to pretend it wasn't happening since Musk first started being open about his far-right opinions during and in the fallout of the COVID-19 pandemic. He was exactly the kind of person who would go out of his way to protect an open Nazi, even if it meant breaking his own supposedly ironclad free speech rules. They were never in place. He never believed in free speech. He just wanted more Nazis on the platform to agree with him. Free speech for him means people that he likes can come on. So in March 2024, as I briefly mentioned before, Stonetoss's real name was uncovered by the anonymous Comrades Collective and revealed to the public on Twitter. The group showed they're working, and you too could follow along at home if you wanted. The data is now public after all. According to Wired magazine, the anti-fascist research group confirmed that Stonetoss was in fact the same person as another racist cartoonist, the aforementioned Red Panels. They had the same email accounts, and their voices on various podcasts matched. Following this, they revealed how they discovered that Stonetoss was, as we now know, Hans Christian Grebener, who arrived in Japan at the same time as Stonetoss, who fittingly let his audience know he was there with a completely unfunny joke, "Finally made it to the ethno-state, fellas!" as well as an incredibly written gag, "Holy shit, I just realised you can drop the N-word in Japan and nobody cares!" And, most pathetically, "Attention, if you are a single white woman living in Japan, I know a 8.5/10 tall white man employed as a programmer in the US who is currently open, but only briefly so. Hit the DMs for details." Oof, what a romantic. I wonder what he looks like. Oh god, never mind. Oof, that was a close one. Jump scare aside, Stonetoss, clearly in panic mode now his uncaring bloodlust-laced persona was ripped away to reveal a chubby white neckbeard with no bitches, appealed to Twitter users asking for those with a direct line to Musk to get the thread revealing his name deleted. Very free speech of him. In a rare moment of sincerity, Stonetoss refrained from praising Hitler or laughing at dead children, to write, "If Elon's idea of a free speech website is one where people can be intimidated into silence, the outcome will be a site where the Stasi will drive out all dissent." The Stasi being presumably the only overhanded German authorities that he doesn't like. He claimed that this was not for him but for other artists, which is of course absolute bollocks. Hopefully, he tagged Musk in this plea and made a list of people to target. Very free speech of him. Elon Musk, of course, legalizer of comedy and free speech warrior for justice, nuked those accounts from orbit, and banned anyone he spotted that shared Stonetoss's name, despite the fact that, even in the terms of service as it stood then on Musk's health site, posting someone's name did not constitute doxing. And this enforcement is a unique case. In fact, following this case, and the controversy around it, and the overhanded ban-hammering, after the Wired article I'm quoting from here was published, revealing the details of Musk's fuckery, Elon changed the site's terms of service to match the actions that he'd already done. One member of ACC, Monticelli, told Wired, "According to X's terms of service, posting someone's name does not constitute doxing, but many accounts, including my own, have been made to delete posts that merely mention the name of the racist and anti-Semitic cartoonist Stonetoss. I've never seen enforcement like this before." Again, very free speech of him. And of course, Elon Musk, talking to Don Lemon, has said explicitly that moderation of hate speech is akin to censorship. So, hate speech not only good, but important, and must be protected at all costs. But revealing the name of someone making hate speech? Someone who laughs at and profits off the deaths of trans children, among a million other horrible monstrous things? That's a ban. That's too far. Stop right there, criminal scum! You violated the X terms of service! We know that this is not a standard equally applied. Plenty of people Musk follows and boosts dox people. Actually dox people, not just revealing someone's name. But they, funnily enough, because they're friends with Musk, do not get banned. In fact, they get elevated. Libs of TikTok, for instance, is allowed to cause bomb threats and live on X as a stochastic and yet she gets a retweet and a fond comment for doing way, way worse than revealing the name of a fascist cartoonist could possibly be. So, what is the goal here? Is this legalizing comedy? Is this free speech? Well, no. It's promotion of the far right, and the suppression of those who righteously argue against it. It's necessarily anti-free speech and even anti-comedy. If only because it means people have to listen to Elon Musk thinking, "Even my heart has a heart," is an all-time banger.
Even my hat has a hat.
But even so, it's hard to accept that this is how people are treated, that talk about Charlotte Fosgate like Stonetoss does, that use her tragic end to point and laugh, to sell merchandise, to piss yourself laughing at the idea that someone might do the unthinkable. I'm sorry, but that is not a world that I want to live in. People like Stonetoss make being online in the 2020s almost unbearable. But despite what people like him might want, I am stubborn. Extremely stubborn. And knowing the utter disrespect and vile malice with which you treat children in our community who've suffered the worst fate imaginable, I'm going to make sure that I outlive these demons. Because as much as their actions might horrify us, they are small. They are lonely. And they are weird Nazi perverts whose penises were forever disfigured in botched medical accidents, who look like what you get if you ask a random person off the street to draw a neckbeard from memory, and who will never, ever find happiness. Be a cartoonist who only deals hate if you want. All it'll do is fill you with the same misery that you wish on others. May your penis never recover. It's easy to lose hope. It's much harder to stay in the fight. When you see the joy people supposedly get celebrating the worst tragedy most of us can imagine happening to someone we know and love, losing hope is an understandable instinct. If you have empathy, you cannot look at something like what happened to Charlotte and not feel deeply sad. To see people so openly celebrate it and encourage more of it, it would be infuriating if it wasn't so baffling. But I think it's baffling for a reason. Because it's empty. It feels forced. It's not real. It's not honest. No one is sitting there actually laughing their arse off at this stuff. They might feel like they've gotten one over on their ideological opponents, because to them their ideological opponents are minorities in general, for the crime of existing, but they're not actually finding it funny. There is no humour in their reaction. Nothing with any comedy in it. Not even a scrap. There's pettiness, there's vindictiveness, there's cruelty, but there's not even a dark humor to it. They do not know humor. They know hate. Those are two very different things. And the important thing about that distinction is that reacting to some stranger's death with little collages you made about how much you hate them is so obviously and deeply pathetic that I think it makes it easier to picture the person behind the screen making these awful odes to cruelty. Someone pathetic, someone lonely, someone deeply sad, with no joy in their life, only sitting behind their computer, seething, constantly seething, baying for blood, praying for a far-right victory that will inevitably only make their lives worse, if not actively brutalize them. Someone whose name is Hans Christian Grabner, who begged for white girls to come and have fuck with him in Japan, who laments the disfigured form of his penis, and who lives at the... Yeah, that kind of person. I think this is really exemplified by his comic following his strip that directly mocked the recent tragedy. He's clearly spiraling about someone saying that he should die. Something that he does constantly and makes out like he finds extremely funny. Like most bullies, he can dish it out, but he can't take it. And most fascists, I think, are like this. It's baked into their ideology. They're a superior people, stronger than those weak and pathetic minorities in every way, but they're also in constant danger of being wiped out by those scary minorities being too near them. They believe simultaneously in their own supreme power and their imminent demise if a brown person gets too close to them on the bus. And that's no way to live. That paranoia, those contradictions, are baked into the excuses for humour coming from Stonetoss, from Matt Walsh, and from every other conservative making jokes about some of the least humorous things that you can imagine. But only if they happen to minorities or leftists, not people they like. The moment you throw it back at them, they panic. Because they are exactly that pathetic. For the rest of you, stay safe, stay alive, and most importantly, outlive these losers. Rest in peace and rest in pride, Charlotte Fosgate. I love you. Hey, thank you for watching this video all to the end. Sad topic, of course, but if you like this video, why not like it, leave a comment, subscribe, and tell your friends about it. I am poor, very poor, debt, don't like debt. Please get me out of it. Does that count as a rhyme? I don't know. If you have some stuff, you can give me the money. Give one-time donations on Coffee or PayPal, links below as always, or sign up to my Patreon or YouTube memberships, where you get early videos, access to the members-only Discord, my Nintendo Switch friend code, and exclusive content such as long-form interviews with Quintus Weeks, Rosenkreutz and Jesse Gender, some of your favourite YouTubers. I've decided they're your favourites. And in addition to all that good stuff, you'll also, if you sign up, get your name read out at the end of each video, just like these lovely people. LFR. Akmad bin Moktaradzi, Taylor Wood, Trikoi, Ariella, Hannah, Proquar, Robin Thomas, Emily Eisenberg, Kathy 1410 She, Danielle Van Hamelen, Big Little Boat, George Geddes, Kira B, No Sparkling Hearts, Corey, Gianna J, Mightier Than the Sword, Carolyn, Imogen Q, Luciano Frias Andrade, Adam, Harry, Ndog191, Cav, Quesadilla de Tortilla Azul, Liron, Adam Lees, Daniel Nevels, no, not that Paul, MB, Wandering Wonder, Lex Phoenix, Enter the Curzits, Mirror D, Jade Senior, Boa Ear, James W, Martha, and Orr, Thorngill, Bob the Builder, 5445554, Deborah Laboon, Vegas, Silas Athenaeum, Vince Whitaker, Amelia Lissette, Jason Haig, Frank McManus, Susan Foster, Helena Real, Sierra Whiskey, Ali Catgill, John N, Lloyd Luciente, Jason Cribbett, Shield Vaden, Robin Podolsky, Turtle Chew, Manta Ray, Courtney Burmack, Sleepy Slug, Philippa Tabroga, Soma Piglet, Brain Douche, Sharty Wolf, Greg Noble, Deanna McMillan, Caroline Regalado, Alexandra Lilly, slipped over that one, PJ Lisborough, Howard Lott, Neronia, Scarjam, Melissa Allen, Buttsburglar, Atarxis Builds Things, Sarah Francesca Smith, and Rachel. Thank you very much, and see you next time.